Okay, let's go ahead and get started. We got a workshop today. If you're busy, it's okay. If you're not, then join me for the workshop. So the discussion topic today is about agile project management. All right. I can see some people have got here really early. Tendi, how's it going over there? Excellent. Boy before flowers. Why are you the boy before flowers? Does that mean you're a virgin?
That's a drama Korea.
Oh. Okay, good. FL. And you're flowers before boy, Gabby.
Yeah, I'm just mocking Tendy's name, sir.
I see. Where are you? Where are you, Gabby?
At my boarding house.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. You have a mattress like, up against the wall. I wasn't sure what that's about.
Rolling.
Oh,
Rolling.
all right, cool. And you have a Bukit Vista TV. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So today, finally, after much postponing and a lot of time, I finally got around to create this discussion topic. I realized a workshop, actually, you guys actually have to do something, so this might not actually be a workshop, it's more like a seminar. So I'll begin the talk. So the topic of discussion today is agile project management, and the idea is to make impact with successful projects. So what is that all about? Let's go through the top levels and see what we want to do. Of course, we always start with our OKRs. So my objective is to give framework for agile development, and what I would expect as a key result is that BVers should be able to plan and execute projects using agile methodology, and also to have confidence to make projects that are evolutionary and adaptable. Now, in the history of the company, there's been quite a lot of projects. Some projects have followed traditional development principles, which we'll talk about. Some projects have followed agile. It tends to be in a very innovative environment. Agile works better, but I'll go over all the different types of project management methodologies there are. So the format is, what is agile, why do we use it, where we can use it, and we'll give us kind of a simulation, then we'll look for some takeaways. So, agile. Agile came actually from software development, because software development is highly innovative. If you just look at Facebook from a year ago, or even Instagram from a year ago, you'll probably find that you don't recognize it anymore, because it's always creating new little changes that innovate from the previous version of it. So it came from software development, and it's characterized by dividing tasks into short phases of work and frequent reassessment and adaptation plans. Okay. Does anybody have any comments here? Ivan, what does that mean to you? What does short phases of work and frequent reassessment mean?
What? Short phases of work
and frequent reassessment.
It keeps on changing and improving, and doesn't need to take long to do that.
Yeah. So Ivan says this keep on changing and improving. It doesn't take too long to do it. Cool. Chandra, what do you think?
Well, I used to agile management before.
That's right.
So agile management is usually there is a big project,
Okay.
and then we cut it into one iteration.
Okay.
And each iteration we use like planning, and then do it progressing, and then launching the project. And
Okay.
after launching the project, we do reassessment.
Reassessment,
And
okay.
then start it again to do the next project.
Excellent. I'm very happy. Okay, all right. Chandra already has some experience doing agile management before, and it's about breaking up big tasks into small tasks, getting the small tasks done, and then reassessing how their fit is. Great. Okay, so we had some people who reasonably understand about this methodology, and let's go into the heart of it. So, traditional projects. Jing used to work at Aman, and Aman was a hotel, a traditional hotel. So in traditional hotels, for a construction project, you have the top option here. So let me just kind of zoom in. Oh, I can't zoom in because this is Canva. So if I'll bring your attention, can't zoom in again. Now I'm moving all over the place. So if you look at like the project timeline arrow, there's a top style of project. It's called waterfall. So waterfall is generally the way that traditional projects are being done. If you're talking about making a building, building a hotel, creating an event, these are essentially waterfall projects. Why is it called waterfall? In a waterfall, basically, you cannot do the next step until the previous step has been done. Think, for example, about like a recipe. You can't start baking the bread before you've made the dough, and you cannot start putting the roof on a building before you've made the walls. So essentially, it's a staged progression. So in traditional waterfall projects, you plan, you create, you review, and then you release. And that's it. When the project is finished, when the bread is done baking, when the house is built, that's essentially the end of the project, and that ends. But on Agile, it's completely different. On Agile, you assume that there is essentially no completion date for the project, because essentially what you're doing is you're continuously creating new sub-projects. I see Risky looks a little bit confused here. Risky, what's on your mind?
I'm trying to process the
The graph. Okay, here, I'll walk you through it and show you kind of what it's supposed to do. So on the Agile project, you see a sequence of 3 gears. There's a green gear, you plan, you create, you review, you release, and then you do it again on the next iteration. You plan, create, you review, you release, and you plan, create, you review, you release. So does that mean you're doing 3 times as much work? Does it mean that you're actually wasting time? Actually, the answer I'll tell you in a little bit. So it is kind of like waterfall, but it repeats over and over and over again. And why do we do that? So in a traditional waterfall method, it's the way that pyramids were built. Right? It's a very long-term style of project management. You have to get one step done before the next. That's sequential. It's progressive, so that each phase is progressing from the last phase. It's non-iterative, meaning that when you finish, you're done. That's the end of the project. When the pyramids were finished, they were done. Nobody went and built a new pyramid after the old pyramid. But in Agile, you're looking for a different type of development cycle. You're looking for shorter cycles, so what you're getting done is faster. And an important part is you're testing a hypothesis against an audience. So I'll go into this part later, but in a startup, one of the leading causes of failure is a failure to actually build something that people want. A lot of startups fail because they build something and nobody ends up using it and nobody actually winds up liking it. How many people use RDO? Probably not, right? We all use Spotify. How many people still use, like, I don't know, Jukes?
Just like Spotify.
Oh, like Spotify. Okay, great. So there's a bunch of products out there that essentially have not found an audience. And so in Agile development, what we're trying to do is trying to get really good at finding our audience. And in addition, you restart the cycle. You never really finish in Agile. You're always restarting the cycle, looking to improve it. And there's new learnings and new adjustments at every stage. Okay, great. Does everyone kind of understand a little bit the difference between traditional waterfall and Agile now? Yeah? I'll go on. So why Agile? Why is Agile important? Let's just see where we are. Hey, why is Agile beneficial to market building?
To keep option open.
Okay, to keep the options open.
Yeah, so that way there's a room to improve. Like there's a room for improvement.
Yes, it always allows some room for improvement, so it's good for innovation.
Yeah.
Great. Anybody else? Why is Agile good for market building?
I think always that you do stop from stopping yourself to blocking your mind.
Okay, so it allows you to unblock your mind and not stop yourself. Let's go to Tendi. Tendi, why do you think Agile could be helpful for being a squad leader?
Because you can have something that you can improve always in the future.
Okay.
And then we can get some opinion from the other, and then we can process it together.
Very good. All right. So that's actually our core philosophy. It's about improvements, but also getting opinions from other people. A lot of projects that we've done in the past that were not successful, we picked the wrong client. A lot of times the client was the person making the project. They created a video, they created a process that they thought was awesome, but nobody else really thought that too. So this is really good, getting an improvement and tying it to your audience. Let's go to, Cynthia. All right, why is Agile good for, let's say, doing air support?
Okay, I think to keep us moving rather than changing for
Okay, great. Keeps us moving and changing. Great. All right, fantastic answers. let's keep on going. Oh, wait, this one. Chandra, what about you? Why is Agile good for air support?
So I think it's good for managing gas.
Okay.
We can like imagine the gas is like one iteration, so every gas is like one iteration.
Wow, very good. Okay, very good. And?
And then we can fit the needs of the gas, so we can fit every need of the gas differently.
Very good. All right. So each guest is unique, and each guest does actually represent an iteration. So if you, let's say, have a hypothesis, like I will send direction maps, like through Alvin's current project right now. You can test that out. That is a hypothesis, and you can test it out with each guest and see what they do, and see does it actually solve the guest problem or not. But then to then keep an agile methodology means what do you do next if the first maps didn't work and come up with your next way of determining success. Great. All right, so let's then go over to the next slide. Agile is also important, mainly because of this. We want to be the world's most innovative hospitality company. And if you have an Agile framework, it supports innovation. If you don't have an Agile framework, then you are locked into whatever you're doing and you cannot get out of it. So Agile is actually I think it's a culture, and it helps support innovation. And it supports this. So every startup deals with failure on a daily basis. There's a lot of ideas that we're testing out, and that's, I think, the joy of working in a startup, that there's right there on the edge of uncertainty. So we have a saying here of failing fast. That's one of our core values. And failing fast is good. Failing forever is not good. So having an Agile principle allows you to fail fast and recover quickly and work on the next idea, rather than failing and letting it linger forever. Okay, so this is something that I thought was kind of cute. I picked this out of the Spotify video, and I'll bring it through you frame by frame. So the idea is that we aim to make mistakes faster than anyone else. So part of like what a startup's trying to do is we're trying to figure out methods that actually work at scale. We're trying to figure out, can this be applied to a large number of properties? Can this method be applied to a large number of guests? Can this be applied to a large amount of market building? Can this be applied to the entire company as a principle? So we need to make mistakes because we don't really know how this should be done. And guess what? Nobody else does either. So we're trying to figure out how these mistakes are going to be made faster than anyone else so that we can become the world's most innovative hospitality company. So the cycle we want to start is to fail fast, learn fast, and improve fast. The analogy is pretty funny. So say, for example, Katie Kate. A lot of people will go, they say, Katie Kate is like just running around doing whatever she wants. She's like a wild child. She's walking from like the old house to the new house. But the idea is like this. Let's say you raise a child and you put them in a very safe environment, a place where they can never fail, a cage essentially. So you put them there and they're trapped behind the bars and they never fail. They never fall down. They never make any mistakes. But they didn't learn anything, right? And as soon as you release them from that crib, from that cage, they're completely helpless. They don't know what they need to do. So instead of having failure avoidance, which is the first case, we want to have failure recovery. So yes, you might fall, you might break something, you might scratch, skateboard thing, but you've learned something through the process and you've recovered, and generally you're a better person and a happier person because you have learned what skills are. So at Bukit Vista, we aim to have a fail-friendly environment. We want to make it a safe place so that we are failing fast, we're failing good, and we do not avoid failure. Avoiding failure stops innovation from happening. It creates essentially a little safe zone, a little comfort zone, where we're good at what we do, but we don't necessarily test the boundaries anymore. So that's a little bit about how innovation and failure stitches together. Does that make sense? Is that good? Okay, all right, great. So let's talk about how we process failure. Failure is never about whose fault is it. I hate hearing that, oh, it's this person's fault, that person's fault. We have accountability, and that helps us guide a person or a process or a project. But the key takeaways to any failure should be, what do we learn, and what will we do to change it? That failure, oftentimes, I've analyzed failure a lot in this company. I've thought about what actually creates it. It's never to do with blame. Like, one person might go, well, if you didn't give this to me, then, it's a little bit like that Zen story I was telling yesterday at lunch, right? One person said, well, if you didn't do that, then I wouldn't have failed. Then the other person can say, well, if you had anticipated that, I wouldn't need that, why didn't you say that? And so You can keep on going on and on about blame, and blame isn't the point. The point is, what was the thing that we need to learn, and how can we actually get better at it and recover from failure? So a blameless culture is one of the first steps. Okay, so what's the first step to creating an agile environment? What's the first step to creating an agile company that's going to be the world's most innovative company? Let's start with Eggy. Eggy, what do you think the first step is?
Be open-minded.
Be open-minded. Right. Great. Fantastic. Dominic, what do you think the first step is? Yeah, to be innovative, what's the first step? What's one of our first steps?
Bring up a new idea.
Bring up new ideas. Okay, great. Let's hear all the new ideas. Let's go around the world. So, Ara, what do you think is the first step to getting an agile company started?
To be aware of the thing.
Aware.
Aware.
Okay, awareness. Good. Let's go to Chris. Chris, what do you think it is?
The first step is know our limit. Go beyond it.
Okay, go beyond our limits. Okay, good. And Rafik, what do you think the first step is?
Confidence.
Confidence. Okay, great. These are all individual attributes, which are very good. But I would like to challenge that. I think the first step to creating an agile culture is you start with a team. Teams first, right? So what do we need in order to have an agile team? This is kind of what we do here, by the way. So in order to have agile, innovative culture, you need to have an agile team. So we have small teams. The key word is a two-pizza team. Does anybody know what a two-pizza team is? Two-pizza team. Let's see.
No more than people that cannot share 2 pizza.
Exactly. This two-pizza team was coined by Jeff Bezos from Amazon. And what he said was, a team should never be bigger than what can be fed with 2 pizzas. So if you need more than 2 pizzas to feed your team is a little bit too big. And the idea around a small team is that a small team can communicate and has a minimal amount of bullshit happening in a small team. This team has 16, 15, 20, 30, 60 people in it, then it's really not clear who's doing the work and who's just an audience watching and what's going on. So small is pretty key to having an agile team. The second point is autonomy. We must make teams autonomous so that they don't need to keep on asking for permission and can I do this, can I do that? No, who do I need to hand off to? Who do I need to coordinate with? You should have everybody in your team that you need to talk to is already in the team. So that makes it autonomous. It's like a battery-powered vehicle rather than a cable-powered vehicle. So it's autonomous. So the team also needs to be able to make fast pivots. If they realize something isn't working, then they need to make a local decision and fix that quickly, rather than waiting to escalate and escalate and escalate and escalate up to somebody who then finally says, okay, yes, you can do that. But the opportunity has passed because it happened 2 weeks ago. The last point, end-to-end responsibility, which means they begin and they end the entire mission on their own. That way, the feedback from each iteration can go back to the beginning again. If, let's say, for example, you have a situation and it gets transferred from department to department to department, then what you have is you have a lack of feedback. Once it leaves one department, goes to the next, then people don't hear about that again and they don't know how to change their behavior. And last thing is that the team needs to be aligned to the mission. This looks like what, guys? What does an agile team look like at Bukit Vista? It looks like a squad. Essentially, that is a squad. And we design squads to essentially fit this principle, and that's why we're agile. The squad essentially is autonomous. You guys are working in a squad, and the squad has its own decision-making ability, its own financial capability, its own expansion capability, its own customer service capability. It has its own revenue management capability, so it eventually functions almost as its own small business. It can make local decisions. You don't need to keep on bubbling ideas up to, like, let's say, the CEO every time you want to, do a price change or do something else. So that's the idea of that. And when we have squads, then we have end-to-end responsibility. If market builders bring in something that then causes a host to go apeshit, then somehow that feedback can go back to the market builder so that their behavior can change. And also vice versa, if content does something or whoever does something has this feedback cycle built into it. And that's the idea of an agile team. If you want to learn more about this, please read this book. This book will make sure that, I think it will increase your value to the world. It's called The Lean Startup. It's written by Eric Ries. If you really want to impress somebody working in a startup, tell them you read this book, because it's almost the universal book that all startups, serious startup people read. So we have this book in our audio collection. Ask me after the workshop how you can get access to it. It's a really good book. And what do they talk about in the lean startup? They talk about failure, because failure happens a lot, and they talk about essentially this process. So in a lean startup, what you're trying to do is you're trying to get this cycle started. You build something, you measure it, you see, was that actually useful? Was there another best alternative? You learn from it, you understand what's the problem, who's the customer, and then you build the next thing, which is the solution. You can start at any point in this cycle. Let's say, for example, you're just about to release, maybe like Tendy's project, right? A self-check-in thing. So the first start is you learn what is the problem. Because the first problem, for example, could be people are checking in really late and they have no access to the staff, so we need to create something whereby anybody can check in at any time. So then we create the solution. We made a prototype. We made a self-check-in iPad. And then we put it out there and we measured the results. And then we learn again and we think of the next iteration. So that's an example of an iteration. All right, and it comes down to this concept, MVP. What is an MVP? Yvonne, what's an MVP? Minimal?
I forgot the fee. The fee is for
Maybe Chandra remembers. V?
Value.
No, not value. Okay. Risky. Viable. Okay, what's the P stand for?
Most viral project.
Most viral project. No. Okay. Minimal viable project. Minimal viable project. I oftentimes have people come up to me and they go, Jing, I built this amazing thing. Do I get project credit? And I go, how long have you been working on it? And they say, I've been working on it for months. And I go, no, because this isn't useful. And they go, why? I spent months on it. I spent so much hard work on it. I put my heart and soul into it. And I go, did you make an MVP? And they ask, what's an MVP? So unless you guys want to have that discussion with me at some other point or have that feeling of massive disappointment for having done something for months and have it not be valuable, then please, please embrace this concept. This will save you a lot of time and a lot of failure. So an MVP is a minimal viable product. Why do we have an MVP? Why not?
I'm not sure.
Okay, all right, let's go to Gabby. Gabby, why do we have MVPs? What's the purpose of an MVP?
So we know who contributes the most.
Okay, so we have who contributes the most. Do we have any other ideas? Let's see, Rafik. Why do we have MVPs? Okay, not sure. Shintia, why do we have MVPs? Okay, Shintia is struggling with her mic. All right, let's go to Chris. Chris, why do we have MVPs? Oh, Shintia's back. Okay, so Shintia.
Yeah. MVP also is a great list of because that's not just back from the outside.
Okay, great. Let's go to Chandra. Chandra, why do we have an MVP?
So we can measure the result.
Yes, okay, it's based on measurement of a result. What kind of results are we looking for? We're looking for a specific result if we're looking for an MVP. What kind of result are we looking for?
Variable.
Variable is based on what? Satisfying results. Yes. A minimal viable product, ladies and gentlemen, is essentially a test of your assumption. Let's say, for example, you think that producing a video will get Bukit Vista a lot of guests, right? So then you go around and you spend months producing a gigantic video about how awesome Bali is and whatever, and then you release it out and only 5 people watch it after spending months on it. So that is not MVP. That is the opposite of an MVP. An MVP would be like you have a hypothesis. You say, hey, maybe people will like a video and they will actually travel to Bukit Vista. So you just create the smallest video possible, like a 10-second video, and you try it out. Are there guests that actually look at that? What channel actually are people looking on? Is it YouTube? Is it Instagram? Try out all your hypotheses first. And then if you see that it's working, then build the next cycle, right? Iterate again. Build a larger video. Build a more fully compatible video. The worst thing is to then, like a movie. A movie is a waterfall, right? Big movie production, create it, release it out, and nobody watches the movie. That's a gigantic failure. But in a startup, you don't need to have those bad moments. You can just create something small, try it out, see if it works, and then, like Tendy's project actually. I like to refer to Tendy's project. At some point, we were very pumped up about the idea of self-check-in. We were very pumped up about the idea that maybe we could use technology to help guests check in. So then we could have gone and said, all right, let's go buy iPads for every property that we have. And let's put them on every property that we have via bracket. So that would have been catastrophic if it didn't work. Because now we have, let's say, 100 iPads that are sitting around in boxes all over the place. So that would be kind of foolish. But we tried it out and we got some learnings from it, which will be valuable for the next iteration. That's the idea of an MVP. Make sense? Okay, great. Let's go over to the next topic then. So, right, the point of an MVP is to hold us accountable to our core value. Don't assume, use data. Whatever project you have in mind, get the data on the results from a small iteration first before you scale up. Otherwise, you might realize that your assumption is wrong. So, in a lean startup, you start with an idea or problem, you move to a narrative, and then you build your MVP. You build your MVP, you release your MVP so that people are playing with it, you're getting data, and you analyze this data. You figure out, all right, are people actually interested in a video? Do people actually read a Game of Thrones article? Do people actually want to have self-check-in? These are all assumptions that we have. But get the data and see if that is substantiated by your project. Tweak it, also known as a pivot, and then release it again. Now that you've learned something on it, then make your second iteration. This is where a lot of people stop. And that's tragic because now you've learned what was wrong. It doesn't mean that you failed. Fail fast, try the next thing again. Tweak it, release it again, see what the next one does. Eventually you'll start getting really good at this and you can just start getting gradual alignment to your marketplace. So that's the idea of how to release an MVP. Pivot. What does it mean to pivot? Let's see, Eddie, what does a pivot mean?
I'm not sure.
Okay, let's go to, okay. Rom Rafik is shaking his head. Nothing to say this time, Rom Rafik, yeah?
Oh,
All right. Tendi, what is a pivot? Well, let's go to Tendi first. Tendi, what's a pivot mean? Tendi, you are muted.
Hello?
Hello, Tendi, you're online. Yes, go ahead.
Then pivot is the model of the to make the make a model of the create the something.
Okay, let's go to Eggy. Eggy, what's a pivot?
Is there something when you come up with a plan and then you're doing it and then you fail, there's something that you can take it from that failure and then moving forward to?
Very good. All right, let's go to Risky. What's a pivot in basketball?
It's like you have a 1 foot, so it's like you have a 1 recommendation. So if there's something that can be failed, you can change to the other direction.
Right. So that's exactly it. In basketball, there's a pivot. So essentially, you keep 1 foot planted, and you can move the other foot in the other direction. This is essentially what the idea of your MVP is. It gives you 1 foot to pivot from. So you have an idea, you launch it, it's not working, but you don't need to throw everything away and try again. You can keep the part that works and pivot to the next direction. Like, for example, I keep on thinking about the iPad for some reason. So the iPad situation, or let's go with Tendy's thing, worked in some ways, but there was also ways that it could be improved. So the pivot is, I keep the part that works and pivot to the next thing that doesn't work. Bukit Vista actually pivoted. I remember, we pivoted 3 times in major ways. When we first started this business, the only type of rentals Bukit Vista did were yearly rentals. People would come to us and say, can I stay in a villa for a year? And we would go, of course, we have these villas available for a year. So we did really well in that business, but the problem was that actually there was a limited market. There's only so many people looking for a yearly rental every day. So then the second pivot was this. We had a new opportunity to do mid-term rentals for about 3 or 4 months. And so people would then come to us and say, hey, look, do you have something I needed for 3 or 4 months? So we pivoted from long-term to medium-term. And eventually now we're in the daily market business, so we pivoted again. So each time we're still doing rentals, we're still interfacing with guests, we're still getting properties, but each iteration has been different. And that's good, because when you pivot, you're essentially keeping one part that you're still good at, and then getting better at something else, depending upon the market condition. If you fail forever, it means you haven't pivoted. You just threw everything away, or you stopped moving, or whatever it might be, and that's not so good. Okay, is that pretty clear what a pivot is then? Great. All right, let's move on to the next topic, which is, this is the idea. we want to have small and frequent releases if we're talking about a project. You do not want to have the left cycle, which is you get to a project, you work months on it, it's so hard, it's so, there's so many things you need to fix, you get it out there, and then it doesn't get you results, and you're so upset, you're like, why did I spend months on it, and I hate myself, and I just want to like die. That's what you don't want to do. You want to actually make it easy. I make a small change, I see what happens, and if it failed, no big problem. I make a small other change, I see what happens, and I keep on doing that. So when releasing is easy and routine, like the way we do meetings, like the way we do things that are repetitive, then it's very easy. Think about like our all-hands meeting. If we had an all-hands meeting once a year, and then we forgot about all our objectives, then it would be really difficult to like, oh, what did we say what we're going to do? I totally forgot. But we have an all-hands very often, every week, and so that makes the release easy and fun. Okay, that is pretty much the end of my cycle. So I'm going to go around and see what the takeaways are. And does anybody have any project ideas? So this is kind of a fun part. Maybe we can mix a little bit of democracy here. Does anybody have a fun project idea they would like to suggest? And then we can do maybe a thought experiment on how we would do that in an agile way. Diva, do you have any ideas of a project? Just a fun project. You can just make up any project.
Video making and stuff.
Okay, all right. So Diva has proposed that we do a video making. What is the project? What is the video for?
Let's say to attract the future employee of Bukit Vista.
All right, fantastic. All right, so Diva has an idea, and her idea is to create a video to track future Bukit Vista employees. Great. So let's go ahead and think about how we would manage this as an agile project. So what's the first step then? What's the first step to this idea? Chandra.
Like to track what is actually the users need.
Yes. All right. Chandra's first step is to check what the actual users' need are. So she's going on the right road. Does anybody want to add to Chandra's idea? Let's see somebody out there in the main world. Chris, any idea of how to support Chandra on finding out what the users are needing?
I'm really not really here, but if I'm ready for making the video, right?
Yes, this is about making a video that would attract future Bukit Vista employees.
I'm not sure.
Okay, all right. Let's come back to the room then. So one of the things that you can do is test that assumption, do some research. The first question I'd like to ask is, where should the video be published, right? Should it be published on YouTube? Should it be published on Instagram? Should it be published through an email alert? Can we distribute it through WhatsApp? So that's the first assumption. So we're going to have to like figure out what that is, and we can do some research. The first step is, who are the employees we want to target? So we have to select our audience. We select our audience, and let's say, for example, they're Indonesian students who are just graduating from college. So we have our audience. How do we select our channel? How do we pick where we're going to do the distribution? Research. Okay. So we know, let's say we have our audience, right? We have Indonesian students graduating from universities, and we then do our research and figure out what channels are they watching videos on, right? Okay, so does anybody have any ideas of where that could possibly be? Ivan, where do you think people are watching for videos?
Where they watch videos?
Yes.
For now, whether it's YouTube or Instagram.
YouTube or Instagram. Does anybody have any other possible video sources where people are watching videos?
Facebook and
Facebook, okay. All right.
and Twitter.
And Twitter?
Max
Okay.
up to 20.
All right, so IMAX? Wait, I missed the last one. You said
Twitter with the max duration of 220.
got it. Okay, so Twitter. So we got Instagram, we got YouTube, we got Facebook, we got Twitter. Any other possible channels?
I think you can distribute it
Television.
to the school, to their channel.
Okay, so we can distribute to
Tag
the
the
school.
school.
Tag the school on Instagram or Facebook?
Yeah,
or,
on
okay.
Instagram.
All right, so that's the refinement. We're just talking about channels right now. Okay, so we have 4 channels. We can't go on all 4 channels because essentially, I guess we could. But which two channels would you like to focus on? Okay, YouTube and Instagram. Great. Now we have a distribution thing, and we can back it up with research. Yvonne has been recently graduated, so there's some authority to what you just said. All right. So what is our next step? We've identified the audience. We're going to identify the channel. What should be the next step now?
The idea of video.
The idea of the video. Very good. All right. Who said that? All right, Tendi. The idea of the video. So, okay, what kind of ideas do we have for the video? Does anybody? Oh, since Tendi brought it up, let me go to you. Tendi, what idea would you like the video to have? What would be the story?
The story is like how's the Bukit Vista walk team, and then how's the fun the walk with Bukit Vista,
Okay.
and then what they will get when if they walk with Bukit Vista.
Okay, so how Bukit Vista work is like and what they get if they work at Bukit Vista. All right, any other ideas? Yes, Ivan.
My daily life as a host in Bukit Vista.
My daily life as a host of Bukit Vista. This is great. All right, so we have 2 ideas and we have 2 channels now. All right, what should we do next now? We have 2 ideas, we have 2 channels. What can we do?
Make a video.
Make a video, right. Okay, what kind of video? Are we going to make a huge, long video, 30 minutes long, to talk about the daily life of Bukit Vista?
Make some
Right. We don't even need to necessarily make a video yet, right? We can just make a picture, a storyboard, or something, and we can post one. I guess you need a video for YouTube. You can't really test the effectiveness of YouTube. But we don't need to make a video yet, but you need to make an assumption. You need to make a test. You need to test out, does the daily life of somebody at Bukit Vista work more effectively than how's Bukit Vista and what do you get? And you need to make another test on whether YouTube or Instagram is the better channel. So how do you do that?
Try it.
Right, what?
Try it.
Try it. Okay, so what do we need to try? What do we need to produce?
Like the framework, and then you post it.
Okay,
People interested in that.
okay,
Yeah, in short, it is again some research.
okay. I guess some research, but if you keep on doing research, you can get yourself in a research cycle, right? We already know that these are the 2 top channels, and we know that these are top 2 ideas right now, right? So what can we do? 3-letter word?
MVL.
We create an MVP. We create an MVP. You create the minimal viable product to test your assumption. The first assumption is, do people who are Indonesian students go to YouTube or do they go to Instagram? So just create one of the videos, right? And see where your audience is. So you don't even need to create 2 videos, just create one. Let's create the day in the life of a host. How should we make it? Okay, so now we've decided we just need any video, right? So we don't need to have 2 videos, produce 2 of these things, we just need one. Because we need to identify what channel people are watching on first. So how do we decide which video to make? Okay, we can do a vote. All right, let's try that out. Let's try to get a sense of everybody here was a candidate at some point, so let's see what video we want to make. Let's see, who wants to do Tendi suggestions? So how is Bukit Vista, and what do you get from Bukit Vista as a video? Let's take a vote real quick, see what the room feels like. All in favor of Tendi's idea, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Okay, all in favor of Ivan's idea, daily life in the day of a host, or life in the day of an employee, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so it's about even. So we'll just pick one. I'll pick one. I'll add my thing. I'll support Ivan's idea. All right, so we have a video now. How should we make that video, Ivan?
Using an action camera.
Using an action camera,
It's
okay.
like from the point of view of the host.
Very good.
So how do I host people, and what do I do in the office?
Okay, fantastic.
How's the lunch fight in here?
Okay, good. So Ivan's got a script. He's going to go with an action camera and a tool to go and show everybody like what his life looks like. How long should you spend on this video?
Like the duration of the video or the recording?
The video that you plan to shoot, to a day in the life of a host. How long do you want to actually spend making this video?
In 1 or 2 days.
Okay, all right. Try to shorten that down. Try to shorten that down so that it's just done in just maybe a few hours, right? You maybe start shooting from the moment you get in and stop shooting after you meet your first guest, so half a day. Produce that, send it out. And then all you're trying to do is this. You put the video out to YouTube and you put it out to Instagram and you see who is watching. And are they Indonesian students just about to graduate? And then now you have selected your channel. So your assumption about the channel can be more accurate. Now that you have that, then what can you do next on the next version of your video?
After the video is numbered.
Let's say you get 15 views on YouTube and 33 views on Instagram story. What channel will you pick? All right, why?
Yeah, Yeah, because I got a lot more reach and engagement.
What if the 33 people on Instagram were not Indonesian students? They were just random people traveling in the area and they happened to see it. And you actually had 14 actual Indonesian students view it on YouTube and only one actual Indonesian student view it on Instagram. What would you choose then?
Right.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I don't know about Instagram and YouTube, but on Facebook we can see, especially on the fan page, we can see the audience of the post.
Right. Oh, actually, yeah, you can't really see what the person is. Okay, let's not leave the scope because we're just deciding between Facebook and Instagram. But let's say on YouTube, on YouTube and Instagram. On YouTube, you had 14 actual Indonesian people who viewed it between the ages of 20 and 25. On Instagram, you had almost just one person from that demographic. Which channel would you choose? Did I hear? Somebody said YouTube, right? Yes, YouTube, because what you're doing is you're not looking for vanity metrics, right? You're not looking for just things, oh, there's people viewing it. You're doing this for a specific purpose, to do recruiting. So, since we're doing it for recruiting, we have to pick our audience and we have to be very data-driven. So we know our audience is on YouTube. They're watching it because we can see the stats. So that's the platform we choose. Okay, now that we've chosen it, what should be the goal of our next MVP? What should we do next? Ivan.
Getting more people to apply on this.
Right, so what do we need in order to get that?
Like putting the recruitment link on the description.
Yes, okay, all right. So getting people to view the video is great, but let's say they're not converting and we're not actually getting more recruits because, oh, we forgot to put the recruitment link on the video page. Right, so we fixed that. Now people are coming in, and out of that 14, you have 2 signups. What would you do next to make it even better?
Convince them to, but they already.
They're already on the website. It's about the video now. It's about the video. What do you do in the next video to make it more better?
Ini ada start tuh.
Go ahead.
Ada gas, ada kantor itu, ada homestay tuh.
Make more interesting video.
Right. Make a more interesting video is your next option. But how do you know what's going to be a more interesting video? So what will you change on the next iteration?
Asking some of the viewers, but that's.
Yes! That's a great idea, actually, Ivan. Ask them, what would you like to see in my life, right? And then they will say, I'd like to see where you take a piss. Or I'd like to see where the best view villa is, right? I'd like to see what you do after work. And then you're getting some ideas from your audience of what to add for the next thing. And then let's say, all right, you add that. You add where you took a piss, where you had the best view, and what you did afterwards. And now you got 100 views, right? So what can you do next? On the third video, what would you do next?
Oh, the video?
Yeah.
Maybe doing the same concept but with different job.
Okay. Oh, now you switch over, yeah? Okay, switch over to a different job and try it out. Okay, then you do the same concept, daily life in a host, but as air support, and then you only get 50 views now from before. So what do you do next on the fourth video?
Again, ask them what do they want.
Yes, okay. Now that's the cycle. Does that starting to make sense, right, Ivan? Now you're into the agile cycle. You're asking for feedback each time of your product. You're collecting that feedback, and you're shipping a new product based on those new inputs and new learnings. And if you keep on doing this, eventually people will love your videos because they're seeing exactly what they want to see. You watch the number count, and you'll be more successful at recruiting because you've chosen your audience, you've chosen your channel, and you've done your experiment correctly, and the data has told you that this is the right thing to do. And the next time you release, it'll be easier and easier and more fulfilling. This is generally how people who are successful on Instagram, this is how they get started. If you go back and you look at their first post before they deleted it, it generally sucked. But then they were looking at the data, they noticed things like, oh, okay, people click more, or they give me more likes when I show a sunset photo. People click more and they engage more when I post at this time. People click more and they engage more if I post according to this and tag with this. So they're being very deliberate and being very data-driven. Okay, I know that this is a pretty... Yvonne, thank you very much, actually. Give me a hand for that. I can see that this is something that a lot of people struggle with. It's fairly like I think it's maybe a new way of thinking, maybe it's a different way of thinking than traditional. But Yvonne and I have gone through, and we've gone through a simulation of what the process actually looks like, right? The idea is that you do not stop on your first video. You create a new video to test your assumptions. Do people actually like watching my video, and what do they want to see next? And if you can continuously do that, then you'll have something like Game of Thrones that runs for 10 seasons or whatnot. Because people, trust me, I'm sure the producers are always thinking, what do people want to see next? What's the next episode? And so we're being able to show them that. Okay, that's it. That's the idea of agile project management. Let's go around and see what the takeaways are. Risky, what was your takeaway?
No, I understand better.
Okay.
How to do
Okay, great. How much confusion do you feel about this process still?
I know MVP, but I don't know how and what step I should take to do it.
Okay, all right. There's a little video that I sent out on the announcement group if you guys want to get like the Spotify version of what I just said, which is a little bit more clear and it's also done with an infographic. You can click on that link, and in that explainer video, there's actually quite a lot of information there. All right, Diva, what's your takeaway?
I think MVP is good to save bandwidth with more efficient results.
Okay, good. MVP saves bandwidth and it gets you additional results. Eggy.
Yes, I agree with Diva and also Risky, but I think being agile is also very good and also super beneficial in the future. So in that sense, I'm actually want to apply that agile environment into our daily life.
Great. Okay. So Eggy embraces the agile method and also the MVP. Dominic.
So I've learned how to make a project more efficiently
Okay.
by the agility method.
Very
I
good.
believe it will be by this.
Okay. So more clarity on agility. All right, Chandra, would you like to add something new?
I think it would help us in the future to create more successful projects.
For more successful projects. Yes, more successful projects. Very good. Yvonne. How do you feel, Yvonne? Sorry for putting you on the spot.
No, it's okay, it's okay.
Okay.
I'm quite happy that my idea is being heard. For me, yeah, I agree with the agile because even though you work more and you have a lot of work to do, but you can do it faster with a faster pace. So
Very good.
not staying in the same place for a long time.
Very good. Okay.
Being stuck.
Staying in the same place usually in a start means you've failed. It means that at some point either the world will go on or you have stopped yourself. So that's why we say fail fast rather than fail forever, right? Okay, good. Ben, what's your takeaway?
I think it's good to, especially for me to know that it's like you don't have to start in one place and you can fade with it. Like if you don't feel like it's right, you can just move on instead and get the project and you can get done and learn from the mistake that you've done before.
Great. The benefit and the power of pivot. Don't get stuck. Keep on pivoting. All right, let's go to Gabby. Gabby, what was your takeaway?
My takeaway is you rather fail and move forward than being stuck.
Okay, very good. Chris, what's your takeaway?
I love the idea of embracing small release and perfecting the project based on a very frequent feedback.
Okay, very good. Excellent. And Cynthia, any takeaways for you? Okay, great. And Rafik?
More confident and move on.
All right, and then Tendi.
Yeah, I like the sustainable cycle, and then you can sustainable cycle, and then you can get your vision and mission and know how to do that,
Fantastic. Good.
how to be done the project.
Very good. So being able to implement your visions. All right, thank you very much, everybody. I went a little bit over time, 4 minutes, but I'd like to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a second? Okay, all right, thank you very much. Okay, thank you guys for attending. I think this is one of, this hopefully will be this is quite a thick topic, so we